All right. Special features, just come along and have a chat with me. Some tea
Pumpkin
and maybe
pie.
we might have a little fun.
Halloween is fun for everyone.
Special features, just talking about the movies and then something that might strike a chord with everyone.
Halloween strikes a chord with everyone.
Strike a chord with everyone. Special features.
Happy Halloween.
Okay.
All right, so
Ready, action.
welcome to Halloween, the scariest time of year, where spooky things happen, where spooky things happen, where spooky things happen, oh dear. This is our Halloween, but the scariest thing to fear. We have an election, a strange new election that's happening now this year.
Yay!
Welcome to episode 3 of the Special Features Podcast, our Halloween Spooktacular.
Woohoo!
When the scariest thing we have to fear this year is the upcoming presidential election. How do you feel about that?
I'm terrified.
Terrified. We won't say what we're terrified about because we want to stay, nonpartisan. But
That's right.
but yes, it's. I think this is a scary time of year for many people
It is.
right now.
And yet for Halloween fans, it's the most wonderful time of year.
The most wonderful time of year, and this is our first podcast on film, which we'll be posting to YouTube. Our fans should get pretty excited about that. Now you can hear and see us.
That's right.
Although for those listeners who are not watching us physically right now, they don't get to see our sweaty faces in this incredibly humid attic.
That's right.
now.
Yes, it's quite warm up here, but
Yes.
and which is odd because it's Halloween time, so
Yes.
it should be cold, but
Exactly.
it's
And I've chosen to wear a full-length wig,
not. That's right.
and this so the little strands can get stuck to my sweaty face.
Yes, and you look like David St. Cubbins of Spinal Tap.
Yeah, there's a little bit of Kurt Cobain going on here.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not dressed as Kurt Cobain, for anyone wondering. We've decided to dress as lesser known characters in films
That's
this
right.
Halloween, and my costume I've chosen to go as, if anyone's seen the film, Ridley Scott's film Alien, the first. Oh wait, no, excuse me, that was a terrible mistake. Let me take that back. This is James Cameron's Aliens.
That's right.
And I've chosen to go as the character Newt.
Very
and
nice.
specifically not the Newt from the film when she's wearing dirty overalls most of the movie. The Newt at the end of the film after they've fought the titular aliens, and now Newt is kind of cleaned up and ready to go into cryo sleep.
That's right.
She has a big T-shirt on, and these are my little Newt hands.
Woohoo! Nice. I like the
and,
new hands.
and Newt's doll head,
Yes.
from the film.
Terrifying. Casey. It's
Yes,
Casey.
Casey. This Casey doesn't have hair, but that's just because the dollar store went even cheaper with these dolls than whatever cheap doll that was on that mining colony that Newt had the head from.
Yes.
So you heard it here first, folks. The dollar store in North America is cheaper than Wayland-Yutani, and that is saying something.
But similar in most other respects, I'm sure.
Yeah, pretty much the same. In most, I'd say many mega corporations in our current climate are somewhat similar to Wayland-Yutani.
That's right.
But now that you've seen me as the immaculate Newt, although
Freshly showered.
Newt did not have a large red-headed beard.
No.
I'm sure I look a little bit more like one of the wildlings from Game of Thrones or something.
You do, but Newt is still would be an appropriate name for you. I think.
That's true. Yes, I still appear to be a Newt, as it were.
That's right.
So small and delicate.
That's right.
Okay, but I'm for fear of this podcast becoming some sort of Adult Swim-like infomercial where I'm just like sweating, melting the entire podcast. I'm going to take this Newt wig off.
Yes, I think you probably
God,
should.
If you're
no.
all right with that.
Yes, just for self-protection, you should take it
But
off.
don't worry, this is not the end of the wig. I will wear this wig on the podcast again.
Nice. Or I will, I suppose.
I suppose you could also reverse it and just wear it on your face.
Yeah, then you could be Cousin It. Nice.
This is Halloween.
Yeah. And as far as my own costume goes, I'm wearing the white shirt in honor of the two psychotic characters who attack the family in the movie Funny Games, which is directed by Michael Haneke.
Funny games.
Funny Games, yes. I'm one of the Funny Games guys, even though I also am the wrong age and physical type. I'm not a handsome young tennis playing lout like the guys in Funny Games.
But doesn't one of the Skarsgård brothers play one of the Funny Games men in the new movie?
In the American remake,
Yeah.
yes.
So you kind of look like an old Swedish man,
Yeah.
or whatever country they're from.
That's true. I probably look like him as he looks on the today.
It works.
Yes.
It works. It all works perfectly. And also, you can get away with, that's how you go low budget on costumes.
That's
people.
right.
What was that other costume you were saying you were?
Well, I also had a hat here that says Wrenwood Winery, and I was going to play the leader of the Wrenwood Health Spa in the movie Safe. It's directed by Todd Haynes, starring Julianne Moore, and she goes to this health spa called Wrenwood, and I'm trying to portray the creepy director of Wrenwood. So that's also was my attempt with this shirt.
A reference close to all of our hearts, I'm
Exactly,
sure.
because I'm sure we've all seen Safe.
Yes.
But if you haven't, you should see it because it's actually a very good movie.
I would take my father's recommendations. He is a connoisseur of film. Although, as opposed to general taste, he normally is drawn to things that are... we both are drawn to things that are macabre, but I would say that he takes comfort in the macabre from time to time because... What is it? You feel like it makes you feel better about your own life.
Yeah. If I'm depressed about my own life, there's nothing that makes me feel more comforted than seeing a movie about people who are in much worse circumstances than me.
You're a weirdo.
Such as Julianne Moore, with her problem of feeling like environmentally poisoned, which is what happens to her in the movie Safe. Or in the case of the Todd Haynes movie Funny Game, sorry, not Todd Haynes, the movie Funny Games, the family that's being terrorized by the young louts. Sometimes depressing, sad movies make me feel better. And in fact, thinking about Funny Games made me think of Michael Haneke's first movie, which is called The Seventh Continent, which is a great movie, very disturbing, about this family where the parents start to contemplate the idea of escaping their tedious lives by committing suicide. Which
The Seventh Incontinent?
The Seventh Incontinent, yes. No, that would be if they allowed themselves to get old, which they don't. It's the Seventh Continent, which in real terms is Australia, but in the movies terms is an abstract metaphor for death.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because I know another movie that you take comfort from, which is not a Halloween movie per se, but it's definitely a dark movie, is On the Beach.
Yeah, On the Beach, absolutely.
Which takes place in Australia.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which is about a nuclear Armageddon that destroys the Earth, and the nuclear fumes are last to hit Australia, and everybody's just waiting to die, essentially.
Yeah. Yep. And so they're kind of having their final experiences on Earth as they're waiting for the end to come. And I actually find that movie strangely uplifting, which is probably not normal, but what can I say? I like it. It's got Gregory Peck. It's got a good cast.
Yes.
Ava Gardner.
Also, sometimes it's okay to not be normal.
Yes, absolutely. Being not normal is good as long as you're, not hurting anyone. You're a nice person, which I hope I am, and
No.
you're the one I've harmed the most.
You've hurt me, Father. Father, you've hurt me in my soul.
That's right.
I was actually racking my brain because I was trying to think about Halloween movies that we've seen this year. And really, once again, our friend, either Leo or Wesley, we have two dogs in this house. One is a Burmese mountain dog named Wesley. One is a golden retriever, an old golden retriever named Leo, and one of them is barking, so you may occasionally hear that. They're our buddies.
It occurs to me that we're filming this, so you should probably insert clips of the two dogs so that the
I'm going
viewers
to.
can see them.
Yeah.
All right,
There's going to be a whole visual element to this.
Nice.
Listener viewers, you may not get that element. You feel free to watch the YouTube version of this, but for the most part, there's fun on either side. There's fun with listening. There's fun with watching.
Absolutely.
That sounds like a horror movie. Fun with listening. Fun with watching.
Well, I'm sure
Like
that
you have like 3 doors. One says fun with listening. One says fun with touching. One says fun with watching. And you have to decide which to walk through into some sort of hellish torment.
this is a whole movie that
We're
putting
writing a
together.
movie right now.
Exactly.
Also, my cat, who is currently living up in this attic, Junebug, is here with us as well.
Yeah,
she's laying on
wandering.
the floor in front of us. She's not visible on the camera right now. But if I can, at some point in this podcast, I'll try to wrangle her up
Nice.
and show her to the camera. Because who doesn't love a cute kitty cat?
Cute and a black cat, which is appropriate for the season.
Cute little black kitty cat.
That's
Black
right.
and white tuxedo.
Yes,
The best kinds
the
of
best
cats.
kind of cat.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I was actually hoping she would kind of disrupt the set because I thought it would be kind of funny.
Yeah.
She was just like knocking stuff over and
Vomiting off the table.
vomiting. Yes, exactly. But anyway, I was trying to think of movies that are coming out for Halloween, and I'm sure there's some stuff coming out on streaming I don't know about. But it seems kind of slim pickings because
Slim
mostly what I've been
pickings.
seeing ads for is that James McAvoy movie where he like plays a psychopath that's like trying to kill that family.
Yeah.
Which I guess is horror kind of. It's more just like, I don't know, like thriller slasher maybe. It's not really. I don't know if he uses knives in it at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the funny thing is that we're just talking about funny games, which is sort of the same idea,
Yeah.
Although I think Michael Haneke, does it in a more strangely arty way than the James McAvoy one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is that M. Night Shyamalan who's directed that one?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I know it's based on like a Polish movie.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird. I feel like every time I try to remember James McAvoy's name, the only like the device I have to remember his name is the joke from Deadpool where Deadpool says when they're telling him they're going to take him to see the professor, he says Stewart or McAvoy. And that's how I remember James McAvoy.
Right.
But Deadpool has given me many gifts over the years, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
argue with that. I am still sweating like a beast. Good Lord.
It's hot in here. It's very hot and humid in here.
People are going to be like, don't you have air conditioning?
Yeah.
Why are you doing you can afford a podcast setup, but you can't afford an air conditioner?
Yeah, sometimes you have to prioritize.
That's true. Absolutely. But anyway, yeah, that movie. And I recently I haven't finished it yet, but I started watching M. Night Shyamalan's The Watchers.
Okay, so that's where I heard M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan's The Watchers.
And what were your thoughts about that?
I thought the design was pretty good. I haven't seen the last like 20, 30 minutes or so, so I can't speak to the ending just yet. But I thought the build-up, I mean, M. Night Shyamalan has a tendency to be the king of schlock, and some of his movies are like really silly. But I feel like this movie has a darker design than some of his other ones that I don't like as much, like the one about the aliens in the cornfield, or the one about the trees killing people.
Yeah, well, I mean, the one with the kids visiting their grandparents, the creepy grandparents, I thought that was pretty good. That set up a good mood.
Or the one about that kid that can see ghosts.
Oh, Sixth Sense. Yeah.
No, I know. I was joking.
Okay.
Because everybody knows that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. But this one, I feel like M. Night, as he gets older, he has a better sensibility as to what like really genuinely is disturbing to some extent. And I really think there were some things in The Watchers movie, the parts of it that I've seen so far, that were genuinely disturbing. Like the design of the monsters in the movie is never really clearly revealed in the part that I saw. It's generally done as like a, to just kind of insinuate this creepy concept into your minds, essentially.
Okay.
And, it's like we always talk about, like a horror movie is better when it suggests something rather than just like straight out shows you what something is.
Sure.
If you see a monster, there's only so scary it can be. But if there's a suggestion of a monster or a shape of a monster, that's a lot more unnerving. And I feel like this movie is really good about that.
Well, that's good. I didn't even know it was a monster movie, to be honest.
I mean, it's not really a monster movie,
Okay.
but there are creatures in it that are monstrous.
Okay.
I mean, they kill people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that would be monsters, I
Yeah,
suppose.
if something kills people, it's a monster, right?
Yeah.
In a weird way, it's actually a fantasy movie, but I won't get into revealing too much about it. I mean, I know you haven't seen it,
No.
and I want to give you the chance to see it. I don't care about our listeners. I don't care if we spoil stuff for them, but you're the important one.
Well, I mean, here's my thoughts about Shyamalan. I've felt that he's improved over the years, and he's going to be, I hope, one of those very unusual cases. Because usually when directors appear, they start very strong because they've been thinking about this for years, and the first movie they make is some kind of epic attempt to create something important, and then usually as they get burned out, their movies maybe get less interesting as they go, and I'm hoping. But some directors do the opposite. They begin making these commercial films that aren't that interesting, and then they get more and more personal as they get older. And I'm hoping that Shyamalan is one of those directors where his movies are getting better, and that maybe his greatest work is yet to be seen.
God, I hope so.
I hope so.
I absolutely hope so. But that's the thing, is like I've never really wanted to shit on Shyamalan, because I do feel like there's a few movies that he's made that are like pretty bad or like very silly in some way, but like he does have talent in there. It just comes out at very specific times. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I always like The Sixth Sense, despite the fact that it's a little bit campy.
Yeah, The Sixth Sense is maybe his most commercial movie, and
Yeah.
it's also one of his best movies.
Did
is
he
weird.
make the film version of Avatar that everyone hated?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's a point against him.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
It's a video game. What are you going to do?
Oh, it's not a video game.
Oh, it's a graphic novel. Is that it? Anime?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
It's an anime.
I'm hitting.
Well,
all
I mean,
the-
it's an animated show. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly who animated it.
Okay.
But you got to be careful. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so many Avatar fans.
Right.
For the record, everybody out there, I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender and enjoyed it. I'm not going to say anything more about it because I don't want to start alienating Avatar fans.
Isn't it also a TV show or something? Or
That's what it
cartoon?
was, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was an animated TV show.
Okay.
And now you can watch it, like, you can binge watch it. I'm sure it's streaming many places. And then another, like a sequel to it came out when I was in college, which was called, like, Korra's Adventures, or I don't remember what it was called. I think people were put off by that, too, because it destroyed some of the original storyline.
Okay.
Anyway, not important.
Yeah.
We're not here to talk about Avatar. Were there any movies you were looking forward to seeing this year?
It's been a little dry. I mean, I wanted to see, the new Alien movie.
Romulus.
Yeah, Romulus.
We talked
and
about that last time.
Yeah, I can't honestly think of a lot of things that are just, making me super interested. I feel like there's fewer movies coming out than there have been in years past.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I always have a list of like movies I want to watch again over the course of Halloween.
Oh yeah.
At least over the course of October.
Me too.
And I love October. Halloween's my favorite holiday. I love to go to haunted attractions, and all sorts of fun stuff. But usually, you know what? I'm gonna say, I think we should both talk about maybe like 5 movies that we would totally recommend to watch over Halloween.
Sure.
And I could start that off.
Okay.
Maybe we should go like one by one, and try to not make it take too long.
Right.
We only have enough certain amount of time on this podcast, but like I'll say one and say a little something about it, and then you can say one.
Okay.
And I'm going to start off with Evil Dead.
Oh.
Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. I'm not exactly sure when it came out. I think it came out in the 80s.
Yeah, it was like the early 80s.
So like the first Evil Dead, not any of those remakes or anything, which I know I've heard those are okay too, but like Sam Raimi's Evil Dead really has a place in my heart. Super low budget, like comedy, dark horror movie.
It's a great movie.
With like it was just basically made off the blood, sweat, and tears of the director and the actors, and in a little cabin.
Yeah.
I mean, like the movie is really a gem, and it has some of the funniest and creepiest moments I've seen in any like kind of campy, low budget horror movie.
Oh, it does, and also an incredible performance, by from the everybody, but particularly the lead character.
Yeah. I would Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell, yeah, of course, he's great. And the movie is also really incredibly, I mean, I think the thing that I noticed when I saw it the first time was the camera work, that crazy camera flying around.
Oh,
And-
it's all the raw talent that makes that movie work.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of low-budget horror movies, and this takes the cake.
Yeah, and also I know that Joel Cohen of the Coen brothers was involved with the editing Evil Dead, and that's why one of the reasons the editing is so fantastic, particularly the scene where the chainsaw scene, is just so hilariously edited, and it's very reminiscent of the Coen brothers' first movie, Blood Simple. And because
Are you talking about the scene where he straps the
yeah.
chainsaw to himself? Does he do that?
No, not the scene where he straps the chainsaw. The scene where he's chaining the woman down to the table.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I was about to say, I don't think he straps the chainsaw to himself until the second movie.
No, that's not from the first movie. But the scene where he has her in the shed,
Yeah.
and he's doing the chains and everything, and that scene is just—it's one of those first kind of equipping yourself for war scenes, and it's a really good scene.
And his name is Ashley.
Ashley, yes,
And,
Ash.
abbreviated Ash, which is always fun, because the two most notable characters, I feel like, and don't get mad at me if I'm wrong about this, but for me, in the cinematic entertainment world, are Ash from Evil Dead and Ash from Pokemon, which could not be two more different characters.
Yeah, I don't have any familiarity with the Pokemon characters.
It would be
but
funny though if Ash from Pokemon used a chainsaw.
It would be. Yeah, I'm sure that would be a funny little in-joke there. Now, which one came first?
Oh, good question. Probably Ash from Evil Dead.
Okay.
I don't think Pokemon started until like the late 80s or 90s. I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure.
The history of like video games and those kind of properties is very vague to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of millennials have like a good sense of when games came out like in the 90s because they grew up with them, but I didn't really play video games very much, so like I don't have a good sense of which games came out when.
It's funny because when I think of Ash, the name Ash, I'm also thinking about how lately I've been watching a lot of these ridiculous reaction videos where people watch movies and you watch them as they watch movies and see their reactions. Somehow I'm finding this interesting, just because I want to see people watching movies that I love, and especially younger people watching movies that I love that came out, in the 70s and 80s and whatnot. And there's something gratifying about it because you feel like they're enjoying the things you enjoy,
Yeah.
And in the case of the name Ash, one of the people who does reaction videos is named Ash. And I think his videos are called Just Trust Ash or something like that. And he and his girlfriend are always watching movies and commenting on them. And it's very interesting. That's a whole genre of YouTube at this point is these reaction
Also,
videos.
you need to tell the audience about a movie recommendation.
Yes, I do. And I think for my first movie recommendation, it'll be the first movie that I actually, the first horror movie that I saw as a child. In fact, my mother took me to see this movie, I think when I was about 7 or 8 years old, which is still crazy. I don't know what she was thinking. She's passed away, so I can't ask her. But it was Night of the Living Dead, the original Night of the Living Dead, directed by George Romero.
And
I remember,
yeah,
and
Hello,
it's
Clarice.
that's a slightly different movie.
Yeah, no, I know. No, sorry. You know what? That's funny. I mixed
Sorry.
that up with "They're Coming to Get You, Barbara."
Yes, they're coming to get you, Barbara.
Both sinister lines in and of their own right.
Definitely.
Well, that's a funny brain fart
Yeah.
to have.
But the Night of the Living Dead is interesting because I think about what I thought of that movie as a kid. I remember vividly sitting in the theater and particularly watching the scene where the young couple are trying to escape the house that they're barricaded in, surrounded by zombies, and they try to escape using this pickup truck. And the pickup truck catches fire and explodes, and the young couple are burned alive. And then the zombies close in on the smoldering wreck of the pickup and start eating the burned bodies. And this all sounds incredibly horrifying. And in fact, it is pretty horrifying. And as a kid, it was extremely disturbing to me, as one would expect. But what disturbed me the most was the kind of lip-smacking sounds because it was a very quiet scene. And there's just the sounds of the zombies eating the flesh was very, very disturbing to me for many years. So that movie left me with sort of a traumatic experience. However, as an adult, I had very fond feelings towards that movie because of the intensity of that experience. There was
sure.
a sort of nostalgia connected to it. And in fact, when I was in college, I actually arranged a screening for all my college friends to go to the public library and see a screening of a 16 millimeter version of Night of the Living Dead, and everyone watched it. But tragically, I don't think my friends understood that movie or enjoyed it as much as I did, and they didn't think as much, I think, as highly of me after the fact.
Yeah, but that's always a shared experience. You show people something you love, and they hate it.
Yeah,
And it hurts you deeply.
that's right.
And then you lay in a bathtub staring at the ceiling, drinking Burgundy
That's right.
for 4 godforsaken hours.
The funny thing about that, though, is that in retrospect, I mean, it turned out that, the culture eventually caught up to the whole zombie thing. I mean, like when I took my friends to see Night of the Living Dead, it was in 1982. And I think that, in 2000...
Zombies didn't get hot until 2000.
Exactly. It took, another 20 years, but zombies eventually took over the culture.
Yeah. Well, you can't have everything.
No, you can't. You certainly can't.
But you can have some things.
That's right.
Some things.
But if you try sometime,
You
you
just
might
might
find you
get
get what
what
you
you
need. Somehow I always find myself singing Rolling Stones songs on this podcast. I don't know why. It's strange.
Brings out the Stones in you.
Brings out the Stones in me. So yeah, so that's my vote for the original black and white Night of the Living Dead.
Okay. Well, it took longer than I expected to talk about those 2 movies, so we may not have time to get to 5 each. But,
Let's move on.
But we'll get through whatever we can whenever we think of something interesting.
That's right.
I did prepare a little game for this podcast. I thought we might enjoy together.
Okay.
So let's get started.
Fair enough. Go for it.
The game theme is playing.
Oh. I can't hear it.
And this is the fun game I created. I call it Morissette or Movies.
Ooh.
Where I'm
Morissette.
going to read you some quotes from famous horror movies and some quotes from famous Alanis Morissette songs.
Oh, okay.
And I want you to tell me which quote you think is the movie quote and which one you think is the Alanis Morissette song.
Ah, fair enough.
So let's, without further ado, let's get started.
Nice.
The first quotes I have here are, this is the first quote.
Okay.
I'm frustrated by your apathy, and I'm frightened by the corrupted ways of this land. And this is the second quote. I'm going, Mama. You can't stop me, and I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay, and I'm supposed to decide which of these is
which is
Alanis
which.
Morissette. Well, I know that the second quote is from the movie Carrie, which I love, but I don't know the first quote, so I'm guessing that's Alanis Morissette.
That is Alanis Morissette.
Nice. All right.
It's from Jagged Little Pill.
Ah, okay.
It's from one of the songs on Jagged Little Pill, but I didn't write down which song because I don't do good research. So, yes, you guessed correctly. I was hoping you would guess some of these lines.
Okay.
I know you're very well versed in cinematography. So, yes, the first one is from 1976's Carrie.
Yes.
Based on Stephen King book of the same name.
And Carrie might well be on my list of movies to recommend because it's a great movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The second quote is, "It's driving me out of my mind. It's got to be desperation. No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering." Those are 2 different quotes. So the first quote is, "It's driving me right out of my mind. It's got to be desperation." And the second quote is, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering."
Wow. Man, I think you've stumped me. Maybe it's a movie I haven't seen. Is that possible?
Well, just try to guess which one you think is which.
Well, I would.
Do your best. It's a movie I don't think you're as super familiar with, but you've seen it.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna guess that the second line is from the movie, "The Waste of Good Suffering,"
Correct.
and I'm just gonna throw out there: is it from? Oh man, I don't know, Van Helsing.
No, but that's a good guess. It's along the same lines. It's from Hellraiser.
Hellraiser. Okay.
Pinhead says, "No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering."
Ah, all right. Nice.
And the first line, "It's driving me right out of my mind. It's got to be desperation," is from Alanis Morissette's album in '91, Alanis.
Ah, okay. All right.
So there you go.
Wow.
All right, moving right along, because we are running through this podcast faster than I thought we would be. We should have made this a 2-hour Halloween special.
Yeah, we should have. Next time.
So the next quote is, "You are the bearer of unconditional things." And then the quote after that is, "We'll all be going home together. Wouldn't you like to be going home?" Don't cheat. Oh, June's meowing.
June's meowing.
Hey, June. So which quote is which?
Wouldn't you like to be going home?
June's going to answer if you don't.
Yes, she should answer. Well, I'm guessing the second quote about going home is from the movie.
Yes.
Because it sounds evocative of some scene where people are trapped somewhere and want to be going.
That's correct.
And so I guess I'm going to guess that the movie is... what popped into my head is the Langoliers.
No, it's not the Langoliers.
Okay.
The first quote is from Alanis. You
Okay.
are the bearer of unconditional things.
Okay.
It's from Jagged Little Pill.
Okay.
The second quote, "We'll all be going home together. Wouldn't you like to be going home?" is from Evil Dead.
Evil
1981.
Dead? Oh, my God.
Yeah,
To think I didn't get an Evil Dead quote. All right.
that's okay. That's
I'm
just
ashamed.
okay.
I am properly chastised.
All right, the next one. "Life has a funny way of sneaking up on you when you think everything's okay. All right." The quote after that, "When I was young, folks used to talk about you. Said as how you knew things."
So that's how you knew things. Well, I mean, that's, again, sounds like the second quote is from the movie.
But what movie?
But what movie, indeed? Someone who knew things.
It's from Pumpkinhead.
Okay, I'm glad you gave that
A
away.
film that I love.
Yes, it's not a film that I love or have seen more than partially.
I really like the makeup and effects from Pumpkinhead.
Well, I mean,
If you like campy-ass horror movies, that's the way to go.
Yeah, no, the makeup and effects are very well. They're they're considered good. They're approved.
Half the movie was shot on a soundstage.
Yeah, that's the problem I have with it.
But yeah, life has a funny way of sneaking up with you when you think everything's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Wise words from Alanis.
Life has a funny way. Yeah.
I'm sneaking up on you when you think everything is okay. All right. All right. Next quote is, "I don't mean to pick you
Wait,
apart."
here's June.
Maybe June can answer the last question
June's
for us.
visiting. June. This is our little minion. All right.
I love you.
She's so good. All right. So sorry. Go ahead with the quote.
"I don't mean to pick you apart, you see, but I can't help it." And the next quote is, don't expect it to tango. It has a broken back."
Well, obviously the second quote is.
Am I that bad at picking quotes?
It's not that you're bad. It's that movie quotes have obviously much more. I don't know how you would describe it, but they're much more situational
Joie de vie.
than songs. Songs are.
Savoir faire.
Well, I mean, songs are philosophical, whereas movie quotes are describing things that are concrete. And in this case, something with a broken back.
Here, let me perform the quote for you. "Don't expect it to tango. It has a broken back."
Has a broken back. Yeah, this sounds familiar. What would have a broken back?
It's from one of my favorite 80s camp movies.
Is it Reanimator?
It is Reanimator.
Wow, nice.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yeah.
I
Don't
love.
expect it to tango.
Hey.
It has a broken back.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's when he's reanimating the cat.
Yeah. Yes, you're
His
right.
roommate's cat.
Yeah, yeah, which resembles our cat here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny because that's obviously Reanimator is based on H.P. Lovecraft, and obviously Lovecraft has an important place here in Rhode Island, so it's inherently interesting to us. Also a good movie. Jeffrey Combs. Max met Jeffrey Combs.
I did meet Jeffrey Combs when I was a small child.
Yes.
When I was a small boy, before I fully understood his splendor
Yes. Yes.
in a time before my true understanding was awoken.
But you had seen Reanimator.
This is true. All right, I'm going to go through these next ones quick just to spare us some time. These are the two quotes here. How many times do I have to tell you to hurry up with everything I do for you? The least you can do is keep quiet. And the second quote is, I have moved on. I don't mention him. I don't talk about him.
Well, in this case, it sounds like the first one is the movie quote.
Incorrect.
Incorrect. Wow. Okay.
The first one is the Alanis Morissette quote.
Wow.
But what is the movie quote from?
Good job. Good job stumping me there. And don't talk about him. 3, 2, 1. I give up.
It's from The Babadook.
The Babadook. Yeah.
One of my favorite horror movies, but one that you find frustrating because the kid in it is so obnoxious.
Yeah, I find that kid. I just can't. That kid drives me crazy. I mean, I appreciate the
All right,
style
next
of
movie.
the movie. Okay, go ahead.
You know how us Catholic girls can be. We make up for so much time a little too late. And the second quote is, I think the point is to make us despair, to make us reject the possibility that God could love us.
Okay, well, yes, I know this very well. The second one is the movie quote, and it's from The Exorcist. Yes, and it's also
Yes. Let's be clear. It's from The Exorcist 2, the second Exorcist.
No.
That's the best of the 3 Exorcist movies.
This is not from the second.
I know. I'm joking.
Okay, you're making me nervous there. Yes.
All right. Next quote. You didn't think I'd show up with my army and this ammunition on my back. And the next quote after that. They got the Defense Department budget down here, and they got the negatives for all your favorite movies.
Okay. Yes, again, I know the movie. It's one of my favorites. It's Day of the Dead, and they're talking about the underground storage area that they're all living in to escape the zombies.
Excellent. Next quote. You like pain, but only if it doesn't hurt too much. And the quote after that, whether by knife or whether by gun, losing your life can sometimes be fun.
Wow. Well, see, that's a tricky one because I would say the second one sounds more like a song lyric, but maybe it's a movie trying to be clever by having somebody
Be
say
clever?
this. Yeah. But I'm going to say that the first line is the movie lyric.
Incorrect.
Oh, really? So I was right about the clever thing.
Yes. Whether by knife or whether by gun, losing your life can sometimes be fun is from a movie.
Okay.
You like pain, but only if it doesn't hurt too much is Alanis.
Okay. All right. So the movie, I'm guessing, must be a Star Trek film, and it's the character of Q who's speaking
No.
that.
It's Funny Games, actually.
Funny Games. Okay.
Yeah, from 1977.
Yes.
The original Funny
The
Games.
one I was talking about. Yeah, Michael Haneke.
All right, and to finish out our game, the last quotes. What's the problem? Why are you crying?
Okay.
And they are so placid and self-contained. They do not lie awake in the dark and weep for their sins.
Well, I'm guessing the second one is the quote, and I'm guessing it is the movie The Hunger.
Good guess. It's The Wicker Man from 1973.
Ah, The Wicker Man. One of the great films.
Christopher Lee says it
Okay.
when he's talking about how he would be okay trading places with an animal.
That's very interesting. I don't remember that quote at all.
What's the problem? Why are you crying? Is from Alanis.
Okay. Wow.
All right. Well, that was
Yeah, you gave me a
was
run
a
for my
fun little
money.
game,
Yeah,
huh?
I did not get many of those. That was good.
so
Good
now we
challenge.
know that Alanis Morissette could write a horror movie.
Yeah, she and in some ways she might have done with her career, whatever that means.
What do you say? She wasted her career.
No, I was saying maybe her career is a horror movie of some kind.
I
But
think she did well.
she did fantastic. I love Alanis Morissette, so I
Swallow it down, the jagged little pill. It feels so good, swimming in your stomach. I feel like that's extra emotional because I'm so sweaty right now.
Yeah.
Like I could be filming a concert film right now. I'm gonna start singing some Queen songs.
yeah.
Like, because I was telling you that I thought Radio Gaga the other day was kind of like a ridiculous sounding song.
Yeah.
Because I heard it for the
sure.
first time, I was like, how did this song get famous?
Wow. Yeah. That is
Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
yeah.
Like, all we hear is Radio Goo Goo. Like, what is that song?
Well, I mean, it's him criticizing the purality of modern radio.
I know, but in doing so, I just don't feel like it's like it doesn't send its message well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to shit on Freddie Mercury and Queen. I love Queen.
Yeah.
I just don't get that song. Anyway, moving forward, we brought up a lot of great movies through the course of that game. We talked about Reanimator, which is going to be my second choice of a movie I'd like to discuss.
I think that's a great choice.
I don't, honestly, do you know who directed it?
Let me think about this. Reanimator, yes, it's directed by Stuart Gordon.
Stuart Gordon,
Yeah.
okay. And who's the actor that's in it?
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, who's still in stuff to this day.
Yeah.
He was in a movie called Would You Rather that I really liked.
Yeah, I
recently.
agree. He made that movie.
And he was just, hilariously enough, hold on, I got to find it. He was in so recently obviously this has been a thing for a while, like YouTubers releasing movies or like people who do meme characters releasing movies based on their characters.
Yep.
And another one of those movies just came out based on this guy who did this character online called Onyx the Fortuitous. And he's this guy with like he's kind of this goofy looking guy. And he did all these news interviews with people like pretending to be like a real witness to things where he would like say on a microphone, he'd be like, like, next thing you know, the Dark Lords will come up and they will find their way through this system of injustice. I don't know. Like, he would say that. And he just made a movie where Jeffrey Combs is one of the people in his movie. Who's like the villain in his movie.
Nice.
So, like, I think whoever that guy is, the guy that plays that character, obviously has some of the same taste in, like, 80s cinema that I do.
Well, no doubt.
Because, like, I love From Beyond. I love Reanimator. Reanimator is amazing.
It is. It's a great movie.
I mean, it's really weird and gross and funny and creepy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's my favorite Lovecraft adaptation for sure.
Yeah.
And also, I think that Jeffrey Combs, he elevates anything he's in, including, I was never a huge fan of Deep Space Nine, the Star Trek show.
Yeah, but he makes it better.
Yeah, he was great in that show.
Well, I just feel like he's really good at being serious in a way that's like really captivating and or funny.
Yeah, he's
like,
funny.
But funny in like an unsettling way.
Yeah.
Like, because he never plays like just straight up funny characters. He's always like some kind of maniac.
Yeah, he always seems vaguely obsessive in a kind of a potentially dangerous way because he doesn't really care about anything but whatever his goal is.
Yeah.
And I think that's inherently funny.
Yeah, which is why he was great in Would You Rather.
Yeah.
But Reanimator, he's great. I mean, he plays like this kind of maniacal, like mad scientist medical student that invents a serum to like bring living tissue back from the dead.
Yeah.
And it reanimates it reanimates all the cells of the living tissue. So every piece of it is a whole organism.
Yeah, they become
kind of
these
similar
very
to
frantic
the characters in your book.
Yeah, kind
Zombies.
of. Yeah. Well, and in fact, probably there was some inspiration there.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he they become like frantic. They become like kind of slaves to their worst emotions and intentions. And it sort of obviously all goes completely all over the place. I don't know if it's necessarily a movie I would recommend to some people, just because there's some stuff in it that I think people might consider shocking or off-putting.
Could be considered shocking. Yeah. I mean,
because there's like a scene where the villain who gets like decapitated and gets reanimated uses his decapitated head to kind of like...
Well, let's not give it away. I mean, that's a great... here's the thing.
Let's just say to attack someone.
Yes.
But my point is, I think people might be upset by certain things in the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, any movie that we recommend should be seen with the understanding that we have a certain taste in,
we're freaks.
We're crazy. Yeah.
We're freaks.
So just assume...
We're not like gore porn addicts or like into like, weird sexual violence. Like we just like things that are bizarre and unexpected.
Yeah, I would say surprising. I like to be surprised when I see movies, and it's not as easy as you would think, because even people who make movies that are considered very hardcore oftentimes are making things that to me are not surprising. But it takes a special kind of filmmaker to surprise me. And
yeah, well, what is it that they say? They say that movies should disturb the comfortable and comfort the disturbed.
The afflicted. Yeah.
The afflicted?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, either way,
the comfortable and comfort the afflicted.
Either way, it works.
Yeah.
My point is that we're the disturbed.
Yes.
We're the afflicted.
We're
so some of the things that we find, enjoyable or fulfilling might be things that other people are put off by.
Absolutely. But I
which
think
maybe they should be in some cases.
yeah, well, and I think in the genre of horror, it's particularly necessary for movies to horrify.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not horrifying, then what good is it?
Well, but there's a line between that and like gore horror.
Oh, sure.
Because like I was just talking about like how I was watching some of American Horror Story, and I was a little put off because a lot of the horror in American Horror Story is really just like, torture and
Right.
or like sexual torture or
Yeah.
like it's very it's too close to things that happen in real life.
Yeah.
And it's too much like you get the impression that whoever made it is like into it,
Right, right. And I'm not fond of, torture porn as a genre. I'm not fond of, things that seem to enjoy the sadism. I mean, I feel like if I'm watching, for instance, a movie that I love is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And some people, especially if you haven't seen that movie, you might assume it's some form of torture porn. But that movie, I don't feel like you never feel like the filmmaker is on the side of the lunatics, the murderous lunatics.
But we've seen people who have reviewed that movie, and they've said like, oh, this is like a real like film. This is like a filmmaker's film.
Exactly.
And it's like that's the thing is that movie is disturbing, but it's not like horrific.
Right.
Like it's horrific in the way that it's like distressing.
Yes.
There's not really a whole lot of gore. There's not really a whole lot of direct violence, but the stuff that's alluded to and the stuff around the violence is very unsettling.
Exactly. And in fact, in implying things is more disturbing than actually showing the things.
Yeah, as it should be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I mentioned Reanimator. Do you have another movie you want to bring into the fray?
Well, I mean, I already mentioned some of the movies that I would bring in. I mean, such as, the Michael Haneke movies like Funny Games or The Seventh Continent.
The Seventh Incontinent, yes.
Yes, exactly. I also, obviously there's the ones that, Rosemary's Baby and things like that. But it's funny because I was actually thinking of the very first horror movies that I saw. Now, I mentioned that my mother took me to see Night of the Living Dead when I was, 8 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's funny because she also took me to see a double feature around that same time that always stuck with me. And one was this Italian horror film, this Italian kind of, gore film called Torso. About these young women being terrorized by this murderer. And you can imagine what the movie's about. And as a kid, this movie was very disturbing to me. And then the second movie in the double feature that we saw was this movie called Bug, which was actually based on a pretty good book that I had actually read called The Hephaestus Plague, which is about these beetles that come out of the earth and have the power to set fires. And
they smell like cinnamon.
if only. That would make it all worth it. But anyway, this movie was a pretty good adaptation of that book, I thought. And I've always wondered why that movie's not been, properly made. Like, that book should be adapted. But in any case, those are the two movies that Torso I don't recommend too much. That one has a special place simply because
if you say that, people are going to look up.
They're going to look
Torso.
for it, and in fact, I think recently I found that it is on one of the streaming services. But I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily a great work of art or anything. It just has a certain place in my mind because of the conditions that I saw it as a kid.
Yeah.
But Bug, I would recommend if there's any way to see that.
Yeah, well, people can give it a go.
Yeah.
I know that Halloween can be a great time of fun.
Fun?
And frivolity.
You call this fun?
Yes. But as we know, it can also bring out the worst in people.
That's true.
And I remember, I know this has been heavily discussed in pop culture already, but as a purveyor, as a lover of haunted attractions, I think before it hit the pop culture, I was interested in an attraction that was called McCamey Manor. And I don't know if you know about this. I
never heard of it.
I heard about this just by happenstance. I ran into it on the internet. But basically, it's this like ex-military crazy guy in the South somewhere. I forget where he is. Who charges people a bag of dog food and makes them sign a bunch of legal documents so he can like legally torture them for like 20 hours.
What?
So
you mean, like, genuinely torture them?
Yeah, it's like a haunted house but like this guy used. But this guy used military torture techniques that he had, like going as far as like, forcing people to throw up, or like inadvertently breaking people's bones, like
What?
like doing all kinds of crazy crap to people. And it was and he passed it off as a haunted attraction, and he said if you could survive like 20 hours or something, that you would get like $20,000, but nobody ever did because he was torturing them.
So did he make people sign some kind of waiver?
Oh
or
yeah,
something?
like a huge block of legal waivers.
Okay.
In order to do, but even so, I think he still had to tone it back after a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was basically, and this goes, and it's not just him. I feel like there are a few haunted attractions in the United States. Like his is obviously, that's the worst. Like he obviously just was getting off on torturing people.
Of course,
but
yeah.
like there are also other haunted attractions where it's like you sign a waiver that allows people to touch you. And you can like go to these attractions and they do stuff like stick stuff in your mouth and like grab you and stuff. And it's like, I don't understand where the fun in a haunted attraction where people can actually torture you is.
No, I mean, in fact, I vividly recall as a child going to some haunted house put on by a bunch of kids, a bunch of teenagers in somebody's backyard or in a garage or something like that. And I remember walking through this dark corridor and having to walk through like wet strands of something, which probably was like spaghetti or something along those lines.
Spaghetti with spit.
Yeah, and having to touch things that were wet and stuff like that. And I immediately realized that I did not want to do that. I mean, that was not at all interesting or fun to me because I didn't trust. Here's the thing.
Haunted house was probably run by teenage boys.
I think it was.
Getting their ejaculate all over the place or something.
Exactly.
Disgusting.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you trust your fellow man implicitly, you might have fun doing things because you won't think the worst.
Oh yeah, but you and I have never trusted people.
No. We're far too skeptical to do a thing like that.
But that's what part of the fun of Halloween is, the illusion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're actually like in danger, it's not Halloween. That's just like real life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's
That's
true.
like when I got my car stolen. It's like I could call that a spooky attraction.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh my God, I'm so scared.
Yeah.
How am I going to get to work? I'm going to be homeless.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
a spooky situation. It's so much fun.
Yeah. But the thing is, if you sold some version of that, there might be people out there who want to buy it.
Yeah,
because
having your car stolen when you're already living in near poverty.
Yeah, I mean,
fun time attraction.
Some people are if they think they're paying for something, it's exciting. I mean, I really don't get it, but it's yeah. I mean, obviously the people who were buying this guy's business were, masochists.
I just wanted to see if I could fit this in my mouth.
Yeah, just don't choke on it.
Oh, this isn't what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
well, I think they were masochists, or I think they were people who like. I think a lot of guys that did it, and I think McCamey took pride in getting like very tough macho people to try and do this.
Uh-huh.
So like, I think a lot of the guys that did it were like ex-Navy SEALs and stuff, and these were guys who had like, PTSD, guys who like had that feeling like in their soul of like they wanted to test themselves still but didn't know how.
Right.
So they would do something like this, and basically just allow themselves to get tortured, which I mean, essentially, that's kind of what military training is.
Oh,
It's
of
letting
course.
yourself get tortured to make you stronger.
Yeah. No, I suppose on
So
that level.
I feel like that's what the draw was, but like the moment I heard about stuff like forcing people to like reflexively vomit and stuff, I'm just like,
Yeah.
just like, no way, not ever.
No.
And even the guy would always say to people, like, you don't want to do this. It's like, no. But he would film it, and these videos would be streamed, like, and that was part of it, There were a lot of people who were into watching these people get tortured.
It seems like that would be a very popular cable show, frankly.
Yeah, I know. Well, it actually reminds me, because I was just reading The Running Man,
Yeah.
which was that Stephen King book about the guy who goes on the deadly game show.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like a future where people are just watching the Coliseum, but like on television.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and we know that in some countries there have been real shows that do things like that. I mean, in a way, obviously, Survivor or whatever is sort of that.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, but
To
like,
some extent.
I feel like Survivor was more like that back in the stages when they used to do like different settings, because like Survivor every season takes place in the same place now.
Okay.
But when they used to like send them to places like certain part like sub-Saharan Africa and stuff,
Right.
where it was like really dangerous, and like there was like some guy that got some infection, so he like couldn't go to the bathroom and stuff, like that. Yeah, that's torture.
Yeah.
But I guess you could say any public display is torture of some kind.
Well, sure.
I mean,
sure.
I just applied for The Voice, a TV show, and in a
good.
way, you could argue that that's public torture.
Yeah, in a way. But at least, here's the thing. At
By
least,
Adam Levine and Reba.
right. But in those cases, there's some kind of big reward. Whereas this thing you're talking about with this guy, was there some sort of big payoff if you survived?
Yeah, there was $20,000 if you could make it 20 hours, but nobody ever did.
Oh, all right. Well,
But
see,
nobody ever did.
Nobody did, right.
He made it impossible for them to.
You know what that reminds me of? There's
Like, if you torture someone enough, you can make an experience that nobody can get
oh,
through.
of course, absolutely. It can be physically impossible.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of this old horror movie that I saw as a kid. I don't even know what it was called, but it was about this guy who was responding to some ad that said he could win, I think, $10,000 if he could spend a night in this house, if he could survive a night in this haunted house. So he goes and he spends the night. And of course, it's increasingly terrifying and everything. And in the end, it's as dawn is getting closer, he has to
Stay closer to the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Anyway, as dawn approaches, he has to flee the house for his life, and all the ghouls are chasing him or whatever. And he runs out the front door, and he runs down the walk, and he runs out the front gate, this big wrought iron gate. And as the gate slams shut behind him, the latch of the gate is this big iron spike, and it gets him in the back of the neck. And he's left just dangling there from this spike, and he dies. And the guys who, basically hired him, put him in the house, come driving by at that moment in their fancy car. And they see him standing there, and they think, oh, he won. And they go up there, and as they approach, they realize he's actually dead.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, whatever. And they drive away. And that's
Potato.
yeah, that's the end of the movie.
Well, speaking of dying, I just noticed this enormous sweat stain on my shirt.
Yes, that is epic.
I just want to let everybody know that I am not dying. I hope you're not too disgusted. I did just get my A1C tested, my blood sugar. So,
Well, let's hope
let's hope that
let's
goes
hope you
well.
live a good long life.
But
I'm sweating too.
I am so sorry about this. I just didn't expect it to be this humid up here.
It's very hot.
It's very unseasonably humid.
Yes, it is.
You would think this time in October it would be. I mean, for a few days we had some cool winds blowing, and
I
then
know.
suddenly it's like
it's a
like
heat wave.
August again.
Well, you know what it is? It's because there's a hurricane in Florida, or there was last night, and I think the hurricane has brought a lot of the heat up north, and that's what we're getting.
Bringing the Floridians here.
Yes.
God forbid.
Yeah.
So many people I know have moved to Florida. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense to whoever loves Florida and lives there, but
Hey, I live in Florida, pal.
I don't think I could handle the humidity down there.
Yeah.
Or let alone, the swampy lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, I would enjoy the fishing and the swimming, but I don't think the heat I would not handle well.
Well, also you hear stories people are just walking across the bank of the swamp or something, and a gator jumps up and grabs their dog.
Yeah.
And you're just like, Jesus.
Yeah. I agree. You got to be careful down there, supposedly.
If it's possible at all.
Yeah.
Florida is, I don't know. I think a lot of people shit on Florida because there's political controversy there, and because of things that have happened there, and because, people oftentimes they'll get a lot of videos of somebody acting crazy, and they'll be like, oh, it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The
Florida man.
To me, Florida is some place that that doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? Florida is the undying lands. I hear about it, but I don't really know anything about it.
Well, I've always had a kind of a very kind of a magical idea of Florida, because I think as a
Palm
kid,
trees, oranges,
well, not so much. I mean,
bikini-clad blonde bombshells.
No, I oddly enough, the thing that informed my idea of Florida was, again, at a very early age, I used to watch the show Gentle Ben, which is about this family that was friends with this black bear down in Florida, and their car was like one of those airboats, and they would drive over the grass, the swamp grass in their airboat with the bear sitting on the back or whatever.
For a second, I was scared there for a second that was going to be something really racist with the name Gentle Ben. But
yes,
I'm
he
glad
was an old black man.
I'm glad it was a black bear.
No, it was a bear. And anyway, that show, I liked it so much. I remember I had a Gentle Ben lunchbox, one of those metal lunchboxes. And that was my idea of Florida as a kid. Oh, also not just
isn't
that.
Ben the name of that movie that Michael Jackson wrote the song for?
Yes, about the rat.
Just the two of us can't take no more.
Yeah.
We're bumped into what we're looking for.
Nice. Yes, it's actually the sequel to Willard. It's
Yes.
which is about a boy who makes friends with a bunch of rats, and his favorite rat is named Ben, and that's what the sequel is.
Yeah.
But not starring Michael Jackson. He does sing the song.
Not starring Michael Jackson. Hopefully.
Anyway, if of those two movies, I would see Willard. Ben is not a great movie.
All right.
But having said that, I just wanted to add that the other thing in Florida that I think was the show Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges as a scuba diver. And that show also, as a kid, I loved.
You like the ocean, then.
I love the ocean.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
is why we talked about Jacques Cousteau a couple of podcasts
That's
ago,
right.
too.
I had a...
With
That
like
was,
SpongeBob's Jacques Cousteau narrator.
that's right. Yeah, the ocean was...
Bikini Bottom.
The ocean was my escape as a child.
Okay. Well, we're already over the hour mark. That's the normal length of our show. But
Nice.
since this is the Halloween special, why don't we talk about one more spooky movie that you can enjoy with your loved ones this season? You have an idea? You have a pick?
Let me consult my my notes.
Well, let me just start off myself.
Okay. Yeah, you please do.
Now, there are plenty of good horror movies, and I could recommend something like The Mothman Prophecies, which I think is a very scary movie.
Yeah, that's a fun movie.
But I'm going to recommend one of my campiest favorites because I just love it for what it is and nothing more, which is Clive Barker's Hellraiser. I really like the first Hellraiser. I don't like the other ones for the most part, but the first Hellraiser, I really like the concept, the makeup, the performances.
Yeah.
I find the movie, it's not necessarily, I mean, it might be scary to some people, but I mostly just find it like, it's very rich.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like very intense, weird, creepy characters, and I like that. I like Uncle Frank. I like, you know, like Uncle Frank being like a weird creep with with his brother's wife and her daughter, and being like, you know, come to daddy, you know, and he's like wearing his brother's peeled off skin.
Yeah, it's funny because I've seen that movie, I think, once, and I remember thinking it was all right. I mean, I don't really remember the Uncle Frank character very well.
He's the best character.
well, but
he's the one that has like he's like
skin.
putting himself back together.
Right.
He's like a muscle suit.
No, I do remember that. But I think the thing that stuck with me was the Cenobites, the creatures from hell.
Well, yeah, Pinhead is like is a classic character now forever.
Yeah.
That people will always draw on and be like, I did an impression of him earlier.
Yes.
He's like the deep voice.
The only issue that I had and have with that sort of story is that it always raises questions for me, like the Cenobites. Who's making their outfits? You know what I mean?
Who's
Things
making their outfits?
Yeah.
Well, Rick and Morty had a parody of the Cenobites.
I remember that, yeah. And,
Where they were
and I
like the
that.
demons that loved pain, and
Yeah.
then he makes them, he changes it so that they think pain is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Which is-
I don't want pain to hurt.
Right. Yeah, and that was actually another, you know, because those are valid things to wonder about with a character like that.
Yeah.
You know, if you love pain, then, you know, do you also love cringe? It's
Yeah,
you know, that
exactly.
sort of thing.
So, do you have one more movie you'd like to talk about with our audience?
Well, I mean, I think that you know, I
Actually,
could.
let me hold that thought. You talk about it. I'm going to go grab June so she can say goodbye with us.
All right, nice. I was thinking that you know, I recently watched Logan's Run. Now, I had seen this movie many times as a kid, but for some strange reason, it never occurred to me that Logan's Run has a very dark, you know, a very dark side to it. And in fact, it's got the same dark side as another movie that I love from the 70s called Soylent Green. Now, Soylent Green, of course, the big plot point is that the people in the future are living on human flesh. And I never thought before that Logan's Run has a very similar storyline, but when Logan and his girlfriend travel to the bowels of the city, and they run into this robot that is actually capturing runners, people trying to escape, and freezing them. And the robot is doing this because its job was to freeze creatures from the sea, essentially freeze protein from the ocean.
Greens and protein from the sea.
Exactly. And so I was thinking, so he's freezing people now because there's no more life coming from the dead ocean. So that's what they're eating in the city in Logan's Run. They're eating human beings. So I was thinking that makes that a horror movie. And so that's probably the horror movie that I would also recommend, Logan's Run.
Yes, anything with cannibalism, I think, to some extent can be classified as horror.
It's inherently horrifying, yes.
People do seem to be very put off by cannibalism.
Yeah.
Although you could argue, I mean, does that count the same for like real life events? Do the Andes survivors, is that horror?
See, oddly enough, I don't think so. Because in that case, the cannibalism...
Was desperation?
Well, and also it seems like almost a form of heroism. You know, like, in fact, in the book, I know, and maybe in the movie, but they compare it to communion, you know, because if you're eating the flesh of Jesus, you know, is that cannibalism? I mean, I'm not sure, but I know that my mother once arranged a meeting for me with her pastor, and I mentioned Alive, and I asked the pastor, you know, what do you think about the proposition that cannibalism is a form of communion, or survival cannibalism is a form of communion, and he told me that he thought I should read, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
So he didn't have a good response for it.
I don't think he liked my question.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And on that anticlimactic note, as I sit here under these hot lights, sweating on my poor small kitty cat,
She's
we
a
wish
cute
you
cat.
all a wonderful Halloween,
Yes, happy Halloween.
a convivial October,
That's right.
and an excellent good night.
Good night.
Ta-da, 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 ta-da,